Oh, that's hot. Anyway, welcome to Tea Time, where I talk about something I care about under 5 minutes. The joke is, it's never under 5 minutes. And I'm so sorry that there's no green screen, because I'm too lazy to set up the green screen, so you have this. Enjoy my face and my dirty house. So, all of you heard stuff being said about Ubisoft xDefiant. A first-person shooter game that's gonna be free to play, for everyone to enjoy, and it's gonna be the next COD killer. A lot of streamers and a lot of media personalities, or whatever you wanna call them, said a lot of things about the game, and most of them said negative things about the game. And probably you hear my cat in the background taking a shit, but appropriate. Anyway, so you heard a lot of streamers talk about the game in a negative way. You know, the gunplay is not good, the maps are not good, or whatever the case may be. You just have to remember, though, when people talk about, especially streamers and media personalities, when they talk about a certain game, whatever the case may be, whatever the game will be, they usually look at it from their own personal perspective and personal bias. So they look if the game is going to be good for them, if the game is going to be good for their audience, and all that kind of stuff. So when they talk about, let's say, xDefiant negatively, it's mostly because they know that the game is not going to do well for their audience. And because why should I move from Call of Duty to to xDefiant? Because I know no one's gonna play xDefiant, whatever the case may be. So you have to look at it from that way. They look at it from personal perspective. So a lot of things were said about xDefiant, and I'm just gonna say this: is the game really bad, as they say? No, the game is really not that bad as people say. The game is fine. The game does the basic stuff right. It does everything you need in a first-person shooter, and it's a free-to-play shooter too. So, if you don't want to pay money to play the game, it's fine. You can just install the game, play it, and check it out yourself. But overall, I played the beta or whatever this was, and it's fine. It does the basics just fine. And I have to say one thing though, that are really good positive about this game. The maps are actually really good. For arcadey, 6-on-6, I think it was 6-on-6. For arcadey 6-on-6 type of shooter, like it will want to be called, the maps are fantastic, honestly. One of the best designed maps I've played in any first-person shooter in the last, 5-10 years maybe. I know it's a really big praise, and probably some of you thinking like I'm full of shit, but that's the reality. Some of the maps they designed, the actual gameplay loop of xDefiant is really good. And because the maps are based on Ubisoft properties, or like it wants to be based on Ubisoft properties, that basically they're not forced on like a sort of lore or story, whatever. They can make anything they want, and they make it as ridiculous as they want, and that's good. So imagine you playing like a first-person shooter map that's like based on Uno or something like that. Like it makes something ridiculous, something really fun. It like opens a lot of opportunities to make something really unique from everything else, and that's a good opportunity for the developers to take, and maybe they can actually make something interesting and amazing. So the maps are really great. The basics of the game are fantastic. You load in, you shoot, and everything, and that's great. Like as a free-to-play shooter, it's a fantastic alternative to Call of Duty. In a vacuum. But the thing is, we don't live in a vacuum. There's so many other games without xDefiant that do the things what xDefiant is doing, but better. And I have a lot of problems with the game. For example, the shooting mechanics, even though they're really they're good level, they're decent. But for example, when I shoot, they have this like, I don't know what to call it. It's not visual recoil. It's more like every time you change directions while changing targets or whatever, like you're sprinting, you're changing direction to the left, and you move your gun to the right. You have this some sort of like weird ass movement and mechanic that makes you miss your shots, because your gun like flips to the left or to the right way too much, and you miss your shot and you die from that. So the best way to control your shots in xDefiant is literally just stand still and shoot the target, and you're gonna hit all the targets. But when you're moving around, you're gonna miss your shots, because there's a mechanic artificially putting your gun, I don't know what to call it, like sideways or whatever. It's like it's not good. I remember Modern Warfare 2 kind of had a similar problem with visual recoil, but that was mostly visual recoil, so that was a bit different. This is a physical mechanic that affects how your bullets fly from your gun, which I am not happy with. And a lot it's because it's a arcade arena shooter. what exactly is the long term for this game? You know, what exactly you want to do in the long run? Do you just want to continue releasing maps and just hopefully people gonna play this arena show non-stop? Since Warzone came out, a lot of people realized that, hey, we finally tasted that something big, something amazing, and so on. And every time a first-person shooter now comes out, it needs to have some sort of unique thing that attracts people. Just because you're free to play Call of Duty it's not gonna make you good. It's not gonna make people go to install your game and play it. Sure, some people that can't afford Call of Duty, they will play xDefiant. Duh. But what's the plan in the long term? I know you don't want to make a battle royale or extraction shooters or anything else. So I guess the only way they can promote this game in a good way, make it like a proper competitive scene. But to have a competitive scene, you need, players that care about competitive scene. Or, you need a game that is like good mechanically, that people could actually enjoy in the long run. So I guess they could push for a competitive scene, but it's just one of those things that I do not know. But the game, like the gameplay loop of the xDefiant is great. It's fantastic. It's like it's an amazing cheap Call of Duty. If you, it's not a really big praise, but it is. It's like, but visually it looks fine. Scale-wise, looks a bit wrong, but I understand why. It's because they're trying to use all the Ubisoft franchises and properties they have to make something unique and something weird. But I just get a feeling that this game is confused what it wants to be. What exactly it wants to be. Does it want to be like a proper serious arena shooter, or is it like more goofy, or whatever the case may be? I don't know. It feels like the game is really confused at exactly what it wants to be, exactly with the shooting mechanics I mentioned, when your gun, shifts left or right depending how you move, and that's fine in a milsim shooter, in a serious first-person shooter like Arma or Squad or whatever the case may be. That's fine, those type of games. But when you're doing an arena shooter that is fast-paced, wanna be caught, don't you think you kind of want to make your shooting mechanics to be as simple as possible without this extra layer of nonsense that literally affects your aim? And I understand they're trying to create some sort of skill gap for the good players. Like, good players will control that mechanic and they will hit the shots better, but that kind of makes it's not a good experience for the casual players. Like, for example, they're just playing an arcade arena shooter and they're aiming at an enemy and they just die non-stop just because they don't understand how the mechanic, why they're missing their shots. They don't understand how the mechanic works, why of the guns changing directions every time you change direction, your gun just shifts left or right. It's like, it doesn't make sense for a casual player, and they probably will never understand why they kept losing those fights. And that's the problem. If it's not good for the casuals, if it's not good for the people that just want to shoot some people, why would anyone else care, right? If you just can't have a simple fun in arena shooter, and you don't understand why your shots are not registering, or you're missing shots, you're missing your targets, even though your vertical was exactly on the target, that's not a good game design. So that's why I'm saying that the game is really confused about exactly what it wants to be. But overall, I think the game is good on a basic level, that the game that lives in a vacuum. But like I said, the game doesn't live in a vacuum. The game is competing against other games, like even Battlefield or Call of Duty and all that kind of stuff. There's so many other games that are coming out that offering something unique and different and something more exciting than a simple arena shooter. It does the basics right, but what's the long-term future for this game? What is it? What's the thing that was gonna grab people's attention? They're like, what? I want to play xDefiant a couple of times a week. What's gonna be the thing that's gonna make people interested in this game? On a basic level, it's great in a vacuum. But there's other games that do something else, something better, or do the same thing but better. They're like, why would I want to play xDefiant? So I don't know. there's a bit of confusion happening inside the studio, clearly, of what exactly they want to do with this game. Clearly there's a lot of confusion. But I wish them well. I hope they're gonna do well, because I do think the game has a lot of potential. It has some good ideas. I like the idea that it's a mishmash of Ubisoft titles, and basically you can make any type of maps you want, because make it as ridiculous as possible, make it unique and fun and everything. Okay? You know, embrace that nonsense that this is just all Ubisoft franchises together, mashed together. Like, imagine you're playing as, you know, Assassin's Creed character, and you're just like with a gun shooting, and maybe you're jumping around and everything around the map, like whatever the case may be. You have the opportunity to be unique. Oops, sorry for hitting my mic. You have the opportunity to be unique, and I hope they will take that opportunity to be unique and be something different from your typical arena shooters that we already seen for the last 10, 20 years. You know, be different, be yourself, be unique, and I hope that's gonna do well for you. But the maps are great. Like, the maps are one of the best maps. The gameplay loop of the game is good. Good. But other than that, it's a very confusing game on many levels, and I hope they're gonna figure out. Other than that, thank you guys for watching, thank you guys for listening to my ramblers for 10 minutes. It's not under 5 minutes like it usually is. So, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.